You're listening to Creating a Universe, a Love Anarchy podcast hosted by William J. Rogers. On this show, we follow the journey of creatives, artists, and entrepreneurs who are making a name for themselves in the ever-evolving landscape of today's industry, featuring an insight into both Love Anarchy and the Labaniverse music universe, as well as the individual projects and stories of each of our guests, from the music industry and beyond. So whether you're a budding creative or simply interested in what goes on behind the scenes, this is the podcast for you. Hello and welcome to Creating a Universe. I'm your host, William J. Rogers, and today I am here with metal composer, producer, and keyboard wizard, Nathan Gross. How's it going, man?
Hey, well, it's going great. Great to be here. Great to see you.
Man. Yeah, great to chat. So, just to kind of give our listeners a bit of a lowdown on yourself, would you maybe be able to start just with a bit of an introduction of who you are and an overview of what you're doing?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm a keyboardist. I've been doing it for a while, I guess. Been doing it for a long time. I'm also an orchestrator and well, I'm an orchestrator and keyboardist in my groups, Age of Athena, also Blood of Indigo as well, and Haven Dream 2. I'm also a bit of a producer and also a mix engineer too. So yeah, I guess you could say I do a lot of things.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, you certainly seem like a busy man in the music space. So
yeah,
I mean, yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say a little bit. I'd say around this time, it's been mostly busy. Have a few projects to work on, but yeah, sometimes it's busy, sometimes it isn't. Yeah, I guess that's kind of like the musician's life. It kind of sways from being busy, from okay, it's kind of a bit of a break now. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, it's like you're still working, but you're, I don't know, not working sometimes.
Sure, yeah. But as you suggest, I mean, like being a musician or being an artist is kind of like a ongoing process. As you say, it's it comes and goes with how chaotic or busy it is, but like it's always going, right?
Yeah. It's always going at a pace, and I guess sometimes like it slows down, it picks up. Yeah. It's one of those times where it's picked up a little bit, but
that's what I was wondering. So we're in a busy period now.
Yeah. I got a few things going on. Like I'd say for what's a good example. I'm working with this one band that I'm producing a little bit. They mostly produced themselves for the most part, but there are a few things I'm helping with production wise. Cool. And then I'm like mixing their stuff, doing some orchestrations for another project as well.
Cool.
Then we got a show coming up next week, so yeah, a few things.
Nice. A little busy. Yeah. I mean, that being said, like so I came across you originally through Blood of Indigo. And obviously we had Alex on the podcast just a few episodes ago, actually.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, Alex Centorame, for anyone that doesn't know. And that was a fantastic episode. Like, Alex is a great guy. Your bandmate, of course. And yeah, so I first came across Blood of Indigo and, came across yourself through there. And then actually only recently realized just how much you had going on and all these different projects and the different bands, Age of Athena, Haven Dream, like it's incredible music, man. So much incredible music there. And
thank you.
Yeah. So, I feel, you're definitely being humble about it, I think, because, you've definitely got that, maestro quality, orchestral epic metal mastermind that's contributing to lots of projects. That's super awesome, man. Just my kind of my kind of aspirational thing, man. So I really dig it.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. Yeah, sorry, my mind basically stops sometimes when I'm trying to say when I'm trying to say words. So you'll have to forgive me.
No.
But yeah, thanks so much, man. I'm just really glad you're enjoying all the stuff I've been involved in. So I really always appreciate it. And lots of that was music that I had been working on for a really long time with these people, like especially with Age of Athena and Blood of Indigo. That's now finally released, right? It's been a long time. I know Alex was probably telling you already, but we've been probably working on that since 2017, I believe.
Yeah, wow.
Long time. Same with Age of Athena. That was my first band. Started it when I went to school for music. I'm no longer in school for music, but yeah, like that was just us sitting in my literally dorm room, and just we started writing songs together. So
wow.
So yeah, I don't know, it's been a long journey. I'm just glad that music is finally out, and I'm just glad to hear feedback from yourself and from everyone else who's been liking it. And now I'm mostly focusing my efforts on Haven Dream these days and the other projects that I have going on. But
cool.
Yeah, it's great. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, very much so. And I mean, as well, just to put some context there, about busy periods and whatnot. I mean, as you say, this is a culmination of years of work, which I totally understand. But you've just released the Blood of Indigo album only a few months ago.
Yeah.
And the Age of Athena album came out, was it December last year?
Yeah,
so it was within the last year as well.
Yeah, I think it was December. Can't remember which day. December 14th or 17th, I believe, of last year. I believe.
So in the last year, you've released 2 massive albums.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Must have been quite intense, especially after years and years of build up for them both.
Yeah, it's funny. The Age of Athena record was mostly finished already for about a year and a half, 2 years. I think most of us were taking a little bit of a break from the group, but then we eventually decided that we just wanted to release it. So yeah, I'm just glad that people are liking it, liking the video and everything. So yeah,
cool. So you said you had a gig next week. Is that with Age of Athena or?
It's with this group called Nameless Friends. They're called
Nameless Friends. Cool.
Yeah, they're local here to London. And I played a show with them in August, I believe. August 1st, and we went all the way up north to Deep River to play a show. It was fun.
Nice.
But yeah, we enjoyed playing with each other, so we said, yeah, let's do this again. And we're going to be playing at this place called Palisade Sociable. It's kind of an Ontario type of place. So yeah,
right.
It's a fun place to go to.
So yeah, nice. So yeah, just to clarify, in case anybody hasn't clocked this, we're talking about London, Ontario in Canada, where you're from, not London, England, where I'm from.
Yeah, it's always funny. When I tell people I'm from London, it's like, oh, you're from the UK. I'm like, I'm from the Ontario, London. It's yeah. It's always a fun joke.
So when you say that it's an Ontario kind of place, what does that entail?
What does that entail? I guess maybe I haven't heard of it being anywhere else, I guess. I don't know. I guess I just came up with that just on the spot, but
I'm just interested in what makes it an Ontario kind of place. Like what, I've never been to Ontario, you know, I only know London in England. So, I mean, you said it's like a bowling place.
Yeah. Like you can get like pizza there. You can get, like all sorts of variety of foods. It's basically like a restaurant and, bowling in one.
Nice.
And then they also have a stage where you can listen to music.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do they do White Russians so you can sit there like the dude from The Big Lebowski? I don't know if you know that movie.
I actually don't know what that means.
Sorry, man. It's a movie. Yeah, it's a movie, but the main character is called the Dude, and he likes to hang out in the bowling alley, bowling stuff. So, drinking cocktails.
That's so funny. I mean, I guess you could say that was kind of me last week. I sort of went to, I went there to watch some friends perform last Friday, and I mean, I didn't have a cocktail, but I just had like my nice beer and some pizza, so it was cool.
Cool. Yeah. So what kind of music are you playing with this band then?
With Nameless Friends?
With Nameless Friends, yeah.
So I think they describe themselves as glam rock, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah, so I got to do some
party music.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, they're a better judge of their styles than I am, but I basically get to play some organ solos, which is cool. Really cool. It's something that I've probably never done before. So yeah, it's fun. And then they have like some traditional elements too, which is great. So they kind of have like that nice fusion between like kind of like the old school glam rock stuff and also the modern music that's around today. So yeah, I really like when bands kind of push those boundaries. They kind of like take stuff that already exists and they create something new with it. I think that's something that aspiring artists should pay attention to.
Oh yeah, absolutely, exactly. It's like that's the beauty of music, isn't it? From a Western perspective, let's say you've got like 12 notes, right? But it's just these kind of you can endless variations to keep it fresh, right? You know, you can kind of keep doing the same things, but you can always just do something or mix these combinations to keep it fresh, and that's just the art of it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like you have like this limited number of notes, but you also have these unlimited possibilities, right? I know it's kind of like an old saying, right? I know we've heard that saying a few times, but no, it really is true. Like, and there's all these different, tonal options with them, like, not just limited with piano, right? With many other instruments. So there's like a wide variety of, tonal colors that you can create, tonal sounds that you can create, or atonal, if that's your sort of thing. But yeah, like, there's no limitations these days. It's all about creating what's uniquely you.
Yeah, man. I love that. Yeah, and there's different combinations as well from like a production standpoint. There's different things you can do sonically, different kinds of guitar sounds and drum sounds and all sorts. So yeah, it's really cool. And I think that it's all just about like looking for it, like really delving into music, because I feel like a more narrow-minded approach from somebody that doesn't search this much stuff out, might listen to the radio or whatever and be like, oh, music is terrible these days. It was all better in whatever era they prefer, But yeah, the truth of the matter is, especially if you look beneath the surface, there is just endless creativity, and it's so inspiring to see. There are so many talented musicians and stuff like all over the place, and artists and people pushing boundaries and mixing formats and all sorts, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
And I mean, Ontario seems to be a pretty cool place for it. It just maybe it just so happens that I've keep coming across artists from Ontario, but like it really kind of seems like you've got a bit of a scene going there, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. We have lots of metal bands in the scene. All of them are very passionate about what they do. If I could name some, definitely Solaris. I know Lucas personally, and the other guys personally. They're a very just a great like general. I think they describe themselves as dark symphonic metal, I believe.
Nice.
But they have like such like a big massive sound, and I just love the work that they do, and it's also been fun collaborating with them as well. But yeah, every time I see them on stage, they're just always killing it, always getting the audience involved. It's really wonderful, actually. And then there's other groups like Lutharo is another one. I think they're from Hamilton, I believe. Like fantastic performer. Yeah, fantastic performers. Who else I can name off the top of my head?
Well, I think Lindsay's from around there, right? Like Alex obviously spoke about.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
She was on the Blood of Indigo album.
Yeah, thanks for filling my thoughts there. Yeah, my brain went blank again. Yeah, Lindsay Schoolcraft's a wonderful person, wonderful performer. It was also great getting to have her on Blood of Indigo records. She did an amazing performance, and like just like getting to edit the takes and everything. Like even just that was just really special. Yeah. And then there's also my really good friend. She goes by Snowmaiden. She's a like phenomenal opera singer. She does she actually did a tour recently with her band Everdon, which is from the States. And they went around Europe with Michael Schenker, I believe his name is. We've been friends for a while. One of my best friends, actually. It's just always a pleasure getting to work with her. Wonderful human being. We met back in university days. Like we kind of we had the same like love for Nightwish, basically.
Nice.
Like I just remember when I walked into the choir room, like we were in the same choir. I had to sing. I'm not really a singer, but that was kind of our program requirements. We had to sing if we were on a keyboard instrument. So I walked in to the choir room basically, and I was wearing a Nightwish shirt, and like it was like she immediately noticed it, and she's like, "Oh my God, you like Nightwish? Amazing!" Nice. And so I don't know. That's how that friendship started.
I feel as if for people involved in symphonic metal, it's kind of like all roads lead back to Nightwish, right?
That's
the band for that.
Yeah, like that was the band for me at least. It would, and even for her too. It like both of us were really passionate about that band. I had an admiration for Thomas Holopainen, and then she also had an admiration for Tarja. So I just remember when like this is why I went to school for music basically. I just remember hearing Nightwish for the first time, just listening to those albums over and over again, because I was literally obsessed with them. I believe it was the Once, Dark Passion Play, and Imaginarium ones. Yeah, it was those ones in particular. Sense, yeah. And I just remember saying, okay, that's what I want to do in my life, and
Nice.
I want to actually understand how orchestration works, how all these other aspects of music works, and I want to get better at my instrument. And Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater was also a big inspiration for me with pretty much all the improvisations that he was making, and it was just so inspiring to me, and that's why I became an improviser myself. Was largely to do with him, and also the classical composers too. But yeah, you know, I mean, I don't know if I went off topic there, but
no, it's great, man. But whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I always say that out of the blue, but yeah, I was gonna say, you know, Alina's a fantastic singer. It's just always so wonderful working with her. We always share like the same type of humor, and it's just great.
So just to clarify, I mean, you've done a bit of work with, so Alina is Snowmaiden, right?
Yeah, and right? So
she has like a solo project called Snowmaiden, and then other bands that she's in as well. I know that you've done a bit of work with that, and also she's the singer of your project, right?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I was going to get into that. So
cool.
She has released a song in the past with Snowmaiden, and it was called Winter's Kiss, I believe. Nice. Yeah, something like that.
Suitable for the name.
Yeah, Winter's Kiss, and I got to orchestrate a little bit for it, so that was fun. Yeah, it's cool. I'm not sure if she's working on more stuff for that, but I would love to see it. That would be, of course, be up to her, right? But yeah, so like she's in these other groups too, like there's Everdon as well. Fantastic group. You know, their first album is fantastic. I love listening to it. And then you know, it was obvious because of our, you know, like love for Nightwish, like, you know, Tarja and like Thomas. We were definitely going to be doing music together. And so like I had like this music that I had been working on aside from Age of Athena, which was Haven Dream, basically. It was material that didn't necessarily suit Age of Athena. It didn't sound like it. And so I wanted to kind of go solo with that. Nice. I was still deciding if it was going to be for Age of Athena, but then I was like, okay, no, this is definitely solo material. So I'm going to start my own group, and I'm going to have someone sing the material that I write. And yeah, that's sort of how where it began. And I was just like, yes, it definitely has to be her singing this stuff. So
nice. Yeah.
So, you know, like I brought the parts to her. I had her look them over. So you know, I would have to write a vocal score, basically, because that's how she likes to read her parts. And of course, to make it suit her voice, we're kind of getting into, you know, revision process now and recording process. So so she would read the parts, and she would basically say, okay, this can kind of work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. Yeah, you can learn a lot from other musicians. You know, you're not always the smartest person in the room.
Sure.
And you know, the vocal parts actually, you know, got better because she had a lot of great ideas for like some, nice, let's say better lyrics, or just some better maybe lines that would be a little smoother in some cases. But yeah, kind of having, you know, that second pair of ears is always good, because sometimes you'll hear you won't hear something that they hear, and yeah, that's always the beauty of collaboration, right?
Totally.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I know you were telling me you were listening to the songs the other day, so I'm glad you really enjoyed them.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, that was a result of that process. So I kind of just uh, was almost learning production at that point. This was kind of the album that I mean, still working on it, obviously, but this was kind of the album that made me that helped me to understand production a bit. I'm more of a self-taught person. I did eventually go to school for music production a little bit. I learned a few things, but I'm mostly self-taught. But yeah, I think it just came from that like curiosity of wanting to learn about it. My first mixes were terrible.
You got to start somewhere.
I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? And but even just like uploading the stuff I thought was kind of good at the time, and still seeing people enjoy it was an amazing feeling.
Man, totally. I mean, I mentioned to you, and that's the thing is like you can see that process, especially for people that are involved in it as well. Like I listened to all of your music that I could find,
Thank you, man.
And yeah, so the Haven Dream, you've got a couple of tracks out at the time that we're recording this, at least. There's a couple of tracks on there, and they were released in 2018. And I mean, I could hear obviously like the mixing is not necessarily as polished as stuff that you've released more recently. But what I could hear was, one, the songs were like amazing, and two, the production was still really good. And I just had to think of like myself, because I think that we're roughly same kind of age and, similar-ish background, I suppose. And I even said to you, like, man, I couldn't mix to save my life in 2018. So, to kind of, to put it in that perspective, I think that you did an incredible job, man. And obviously it only gets better from there. So it's wicked, man.
Oh, well, thanks so much, man. Yeah. It was kind of like my first time just, showing people what I could do with kind of like my songwriting skills. I think I was more focused on like the writing aspect more than the mix.
So it's about creating something yourself, right? I mean, that was the thing. So Haven Dream is essentially like a solo project. Like I guess the difference between Haven Dream and any other band is that like you're calling all the shots there, or you're creating that project. Obviously, you've mentioned that you have somewhat of a collaborative kind of back and forth with Alina on the vocals front.
Yeah.
But it still comes from you kind of composing everything and then just kind of like adding her kind of feedback to adjust that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I write the initial like ideas and the arrangements. So I do all the instrumental side of things, and then I write the general idea of like the whole like melody throughout the lyrics through the entire song, and then I'll be like, okay, now it's time to show these lyrics and melodies to Alina and see what she thinks. And
cool.
And then she'll, and I just really love her honesty with
nice.
When it comes to music.
It's helpful.
I really appreciate like honest musicians when like, they say things to make your music better, and they're always thinking of the best in you. I really love those people. But yeah, she'll tell me if something's like, okay, this is good. This won't really work. Or like, how about we make the lyrics about this instead of this? And I'm just like, oh, I never really thought of that. Like, that's an amazing idea. Man. So like there's literally one, there's a few instances where some of the lyrics are changed a little bit to her liking, right? And something that like, she can feel while singing. But there was one song where she just straight up did all the lyrics herself, and cool. And then I just kept like the melody around them. But yeah, like it's it's nice. I guess you could say it's nice not doing everything yourself. I know that sounds like a funny thing to say, but
yeah.
But
No,
you know,
it's good to not be like. Sometimes it feels like you're in a vacuum, you know, when you're doing like, especially really big, like dense orchestral symphonic metal. Like, yeah, you can kind of go crazy, and it's definitely helpful to have those extra ears and those extra people to bounce off.
And she's you know, she's just a really thoughtful person overall. So she always has like these, and like creative person too. So she always has these, really, good ideas, to like, so like she'll hear my idea and she's really good at like bouncing off of those ideas. She's like, okay, how about we do this instead or this instead? And it's, it's always a fun process with her.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for that project then, like I get that, yeah, you're basically composing everything. It's kind of your project. Then you're working with Alina on the vocals. So at what stage does guitars, drums, bass, all of that stuff come into it? Do you like compose that from the start, or do you play guitar at all? How does that work?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. So I played most of the guitar on this record.
Wow, cool.
Though I don't consider myself a great guitarist.
Well, you've done a great job though. Wow.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. I do. Well, okay, my brain went blank again.
That's all right, man. I get what you mean though. I mean, I know what you mean in that I have a similar approach in that I just kind of try and do everything, and it's about creating something. As you said, even about mixing, like I was really just wanting to make music and then realized I needed to learn how to mix to make it sound better. And so there's lots of things that I don't really consider myself much of this instrument, but like you just kind of do it. And so the fact that you actually recorded all the guitars, like, and even though despite not really seeing yourself as a guitarist, that's awesome, man. That's great work.
Yeah. Thanks so much, man. Well, I did have some help, however.
Cool.
For a few parts. You probably heard it on the way to my C. I had some help from Lucas MacArthur from Solaris. I was telling you about them earlier.
Yeah.
Fantastic group. So I definitely knew that I wanted him to help me with some stuff because I just couldn't play certain riffs, or I just wasn't rhythm guitar inclined. Like I didn't have those ideas. So for example, there's like a bridge after the first chorus of The Way to My C, where there's like kind of a riffing part. Yeah, that's Lucas for sure. And then there's some parts during the pre-chorus that he plays as well. And I think during the introduction, I didn't necessarily know how to record at the time, like properly. So I only had him like record a few parts, but I don't know, surprisingly, my playing and his playing blended together well. So so that's good at least. Sometimes,
I mean, I certainly wasn't noticing any chop change of guitarists. Like as they say, like tone is in the hands, right? So often you can tell a different guitarist even if all the settings are the same, you know. But yeah, that was pulled off very well. So nicely done.
yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, I kind of wanted parts to be played by him, so it just would be a lot cleaner. The riffs would just sound it would sound like an actual riff, right? But yeah, like aside from like those parts, which he did an incredible job with, I ended up playing most of the parts myself because I guess I just wanted it to be a certain way or something. But or maybe I was just inclined to challenge myself in a way.
Nice.
Was inclined to see if I could actually play guitar on my own record. I mean, probably these days I'd get someone else to do it because I mean, without proper technique, it's a little hard on your wrist. But yeah, it was just good that Lucas was able to fill those parts in. Definitely a challenge. Are
you tracking everything at home then?
Yeah, so I mean, I've had this M audio interface for a few years now. It's one of the older versions of it. So I just tracked through that. I just tracks straight in, direct in, and I used amp sims, and
Nice.
and I just recorded left and right guitars, and
Great.
I would just do that for most of the album. Surprisingly, some of the guitars are a little bit out of tune, but you know, again, like it's not a guitar focused record. It's more about the you know, Alina's vocals and the orchestrations, right?
Yeah. You just want that metal kind of rhythm going through it, right?
Yeah, kind of like it's kind of like the guitars, bass and drums are like the support and like the fullness. There are some moments where they stand out, like in some of there's a few other tracks where they stand out a little more, but for the most part, it was always an album that was just going to be you know, band as supporting, orchestra and vocals are more in the front, I'd say. Yeah,
I totally get that, and I like that. And you don't actually get it too much, even in symphonic metal and stuff. I think it's definitely still industry standard to have the big upfront, you know, drums and everything else.
Yeah, I find metal is kind of missing that these days a little bit.
Do you know? It's just sometimes it sounds really good, like overall, especially like technically as a mix, but like you'll have an amazing orchestral part that just kind of gets tied down to like a crisp, you know, it's just like a really thin sort of sound, and you don't get the nuance of all the orchestral parts there.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
Yeah. I've never, and I feel exactly the way you feel. I've heard many songs where that pretty much happens, and you know, they want the metal, you know, in the forefront, which I understand. Like, I mean, it's it's what if that's what your music calls for, then go for it. But I will say, if the orchestral part is a very big driving force in you know, certain sections or maybe most of the song, then you should kind of bring it up, right?
Totally.
That's what I feel with most of these productions. Sometimes I want the orchestra to be louder, but it just doesn't get louder.
Again, you have to watch bias to a certain point as well. It's like, I remember there's always a thing, like I came from being a guitarist, and like there was always a joke about guitarists turning themselves up, you know, like you do the sound check, but then the guitarist just like notches their amp a little bit. Everyone wants to be louder. So obviously if you're the keyboardist and orchestrator, you kind of want to hear more of that than maybe a listener does, you know. So
definitely
got to keep it in check.
Definitely sometimes it is difficult keeping that in check, right? Because because you know, we only have our brains, right? Like ourselves, our own brains, so we're just kind of thinking like, oh no, that's the right thing. This is not the right thing, when really there is no right or wrong thing, right? But
for sure,
but definitely understanding how to alleviate the right word? Alleviate
perhaps,
that bias is a good thing, though, because that's how you make things work, right?
That's the thing about wearing hats, right? It kind of goes back to that thing you said before about having other ears on it being so helpful, because that and the fact that like developing as a producer or composer or whatever, creator all round, especially if you're kind of doing all of the different jobs, you do have to try and wear hats and put yourself in these different frames of mind to deal with things, for sure.
Like especially if you're mixing a group that's or like producing a group that's not necessarily the main genre you do, then you do have to change your hats around a little bit. It's an important skill to have, being able to sort of empathize with that artist's vision, because that way you can give your all in what's best for that artist. You know, when you're a producer and mixer, it's not really about you. It's about the artist. Right? So you're trying to bring that artist's vision to life, and what they want, right? So
and I think that helps accentuate those skills, like even in your own work. I think the trickiest one is, as you say, like when you're the producer and mixer and the artist and like everything else, then it's like you're wrestling with yourself, like the artist in you wants to. I think especially the thing is with orchestra, right? Like because so much goes into it. Like you might have a guitar part and it's the rhythm guitar and it's doing a riff and then you like double track that. But like an orchestration could have so much nuance to it, and you spend, hours and hours like composing all of these parts that it just feels tragic when you're mixing it, like to lose any of that nuance. So I think that, that's the thing. That's why I think when you hear a lot of professional mixes, unfortunately, the orchestration often does go a little bit to the background. But I know, at least from, as a kind of orchestrator and producer myself, like I can definitely really appreciate the kind of approach that you've had with bringing the orchestra to the front and really like allowing that. I guess we approach it kind of a lot like film composers and things like that, right? And so kind of having that as the music with a vocal and then more just like metal backing it up is, I think it's a good style as well. As you say, there's no right or wrong. It's just kind of different, right?
Like I'm glad to hear that, because that's what I've always been kind of aiming for, is kind of like that more orchestral, like vocal focused type of music. But was still a heavy band production though. But like the orchestra always was, and like other, like let's say synth elements and vocal elements. I always wanted those to kind of be the focus, because I always there's so much more you can. I mean, obviously, I love guitar players and everything, but I feel like there's so much more you can do with synths and orchestra and everything. Obviously you can do a lot on guitar, right? So obviously I'm not trying to be that guy ever, of course. I'm just saying like in my eyes is that, you can have just so much more tonal variety with those things. And I feel that kind of sticks out in metal today to me. Is those kind of things, because I think that's it just sticks out to me. I'm
100% with you, man. And I kind of understand the camps as well, because I came from being a guitarist, which is where I started. But when I'm composing now, like the orchestral stuff it has the power to like totally transform it. I can be playing a riff and I'll often start by just putting down guitars and etc. And it could be cool. It sounds like cool metal riff or whatever. Maybe it sounds quite dark. I have like low tuned metal guitars, whatever. But then you put in the orchestra and then I might, go on and like put a lot of more like major or kind of modal tonality in there, and it transforms the entire piece. Like it has a completely different palette to it now, and that's amazing, I think.
That's always how I felt about adding orchestrals to metal, is that it's probably the one thing that transforms your song and makes it into something completely different.
Totally,
it's the same with synths as well. That also transforms the arrangement of your song as well. I could definitely tell with your song, the Arcane Muse. I was listening to it the other day. It's a fantastic song, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You and Pete did a killer job on that. I was just
thanks, man. That means a lot from you.
It's just like the way the orchestra was going with like Pete's vocals. There's just so like complimentary, and I just I also loved the way you guys used the D Dorian mode. That was fantastic.
Cheers,
Because
man.
it's one of my favorite keys.
Did you see the video where I was talking about using the Dorian mode, or you just picked that up from your ear?
I think I saw it. I think I saw it a while ago before I got a chance to listen to the song.
Right,
I watched it a little bit. I know you were talking about it, but when I went and listened to the piece, I was like, oh yeah, I picked up on it. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Cool, man. I appreciate that. And the thing is, like that one from my end is definitely a good example of what I would say I can relate to what you're saying, because I remember there was one comment on that song. Somebody said on, I think, the comments of a reaction video or something, that like they just like piano this loud in a metal mix just doesn't make sense to them, you know. Like it just doesn't work for them. And I just thought, like, cool, you know, because like that's totally cool. I totally respect that would be somebody's opinion of it, but that's very deliberate. You know, it wasn't meant to be like a kind of typical metal song or metal mix. It is kind of like a theatrical piano ballad almost, with the orchestra and everything else, and it's in a metal context, you know, just like you're talking about, really. So
and I really like when, you know, artists like yourself and Pete push those boundaries and really like bring stuff to the forefront that wasn't really, you know, brought to the forefront before. And and I think that's a wonderful thing in music. That's what makes you know, music unique, is, you know, you're hearing something within something you've heard a few times, right? That's what pushing boundaries is to me. Yeah,
totally, man. I totally resonate with that. Like, I feel on a kind of similar wavelength, which is really cool. I mean, Blood of Indigo had a lot of that with the album, because Blood of Indigo has a pretty dark, heavy sound, and like kind of a lot of like sort of black metal type elements as well, and it's really heavy. But there's so many interesting things going on in the orchestration, and you're doing all kinds of things that maybe there's symphonic black metal or like black metal that does have some dark sounding strings and atmospheres, but you're doing stuff that is very atypical of that. You know, like all sorts of interesting flurries and instrumentation going on, which is super, super cool, man.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I was really proud of how the work came out on that record. And it definitely took a while to get the arrangements sorted out. I was very particular with it. I mean, I'm just kind of one of those people who hears all these really small details, if that makes sense. I'm one of those people.
Man, totally. Yeah, me too, man. Yeah. When it comes to orchestra and stuff, totally, especially like thematic film composing, etc., we appreciate those little Easter eggs.
Yeah, man. Like even if it's like the quietest you know, tremolo from strings, or just like quietest, like, you know, double bass sustains or something like that. You know, that all, like, you know, means something to us, right? But yeah, I was very particular with how, like, you know, the arrangements flowed into one another, how it complemented the band in a way, how it sort of transformed you know, the music into you know, this bigger, larger than life sound. Totally. I especially remember how tricky the intro track was to arrange. I mean, it's not Memesis, it wasn't with there was no band material on that, but I remember like trying to get all those themes, that thematic material, into just one long piece was really tricky.
I bet that piece like blew my mind. I mean, it came up in the podcast with Alex, obviously, but if anybody listening that didn't hear that, like, you have the opening track on the Blood of Indigo album called Memesis, and it's about like 14 minutes or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's big. It's basically like an entire orchestral suite to open the record. And like, yeah, as you say, like it clearly contains all of that thematic material and all of the kind of nuance and Easter eggs of the kind of universe that you've created within that record. Like there in that track. It's so cool, man. I couldn't believe there was such a grandiose orchestral suite like at the top of the record, man. It was wicked.
Yeah. I think it was something that we wanted to do because I think Alex talked about this already, but you know, lots of albums tend to open up with a very like short type of intro track. We basically wanted to do the opposite of that, where it sort of opened up with all the material at once, and most people have been calling it a bold move, and definitely is.
Yeah, it's unusual for sure, but that's cool.
But yeah, it comes back to my point where we were trying to push boundaries, right? And we were trying to sound like you know, the genre that we were claiming to be, in this case, dark fantasy metal, right? But yeah, that track is sort of meant to create like the introduction to like almost like the entire world of the Dawn of the Shade world, right? And yeah, there was eventually a point where I was like writing I was arranging and writing the track, and eventually I needed Alex's help to inspire ideas in me, because it was really tricky to pull off.
That must have been a huge piece of work, man.
Yeah, I think it took 6 months to complete, I believe. Yeah. So it took a while to really get those like transitions sorted out, and there were just some times where it was just like, how the hell am I going to make this work? During like some sections, I'm just like, oh boy. But yeah, it came out in the end. And I think just by really setting something and just thinking about all the possibilities of what you can do, you do eventually figure out something. Yeah, there's always an answer to like a dilemma, I guess. Yeah, for sure. That's it. It just takes creativity. That's all. yeah, it just takes the creativity. It you know, it just you just think about the flow of things, and then eventually you come up with something. Very simple saying.
I like that. Sometimes simple is best. Yeah, really cool, man. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I love that record. I've already spoken about that plenty. I've had 2 Blood of Indigo members now in the space of a few episodes. So, you know, I think you did an excellent job with that. But the Age of Athena album I discovered more recently, and I've listened to that a few times, and man, that's an amazing record as well. Like it's a kind of whole other thing, but like that is like seriously top quality stuff, man.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. Yeah, that was a long time coming record as well. Yeah, like the other projects. Yeah, I remember we you know, we're working on those songs. You know, back to my university story. I remember when we started those songs back in my dorm room, in this case. I think I had like this keyboard set up in there. Yeah, I did. I had the keyboard set up, and I just remember you know, Zach coming in, and also our previous singer at the time, Tamara. We had a previous singer before, but I remember we were just writing the songs, and definitely had some magic to them in ways. This was definitely going to be a more riff driven type of band, where I kind of I just took the orchestrations back just a bit, because it didn't quite suit the music.
In terms of what we were speaking about, yeah, this one is a bit more of a modern metal sound. Yeah, that is a little bit more typical to what you'd hear. Not, you know, I mean, in a very good way. Like it sounds like a super pro metal band, but like you're you know, the keyboardist and orchestrator, but you're clearly a kind of a part of a band here in this one.
Yeah, I'd say it's more about like the simple accompaniment parts, and a bit more about the solos. In this case, I'd say
yeah, you do some wicked solos, man, and like the guitar as well. That's sweet, man.
Yeah, Yeah, you know what's funny? In the video, I don't know if you saw the video at
I
all.
did see the video. Yeah, where you did the guitar solo and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
that's sweet.
The funniest thing about that is that I kind of just pulled that out for the video. I played the solo on this thing.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, sure. Yeah, I
yeah,
bet. Yeah.
yeah. But I did try to attempt playing it live though on the guitar. It sort of worked out. Played a
Nice.
show a few months ago.
Cool.
And it was interesting challenging myself to try to actually like play what I could do, what I was doing in the video. It was like, whoa, playing guitar is just a whole nother level. It's like learning a new instrument again.
Wow.
But
cool. I've never even played one. I don't think.
Yeah, it's a very interesting, unique instrument. You definitely have to get used to playing more like this.
Yeah, the position.
Like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's always like sliding like this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's difficult to play the notes properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say the album was more about like the simple parts, just kind of filling in the space, and while still having some like type of melodic context in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was more about the solos in that one and the simple coming parts. But yeah, it was a really fun album to make. I guess you could say we were very particular on the songs. These days, Zach and I are the main writers. So we
Zach's the guitarist, right?
Zach's the guitarist, and so most of those so those riffs are mostly his. Like he writes all the riffs and the drums.
What I love about that style that it makes overall is that like it has the heavy modern metal riffs, but like he, especially in the lead guitars and stuff, like it sounds so much like Avenged Sevenfold, which like I don't know what people's opinions are or whatever, but for me that's awesome, because like for me it ends up being like a perfect balance. It's kind of like Avenged Sevenfold mixed with like Epica or something, and so it's got this like big fat modern symphonic metal sound, but then also with this very kind of melodic, like there's some sort of rock influences in there as well, in the guitar playing especially, and for me that's just a perfect balance, man.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because Zach's main influence is Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah, it makes sense, man. There were certain parts that I just thought wow, I can really hear that in the harmonized guitars and stuff. It's really well done.
Yeah, and he loves all these other bands, like Asking Alexandria is one of them. He's kind of
bands and stuff.
He's kind of the person who introduced me to this stuff. I wasn't into metalcore at the time. I was I guess you could say I didn't like it at first.
Yeah, I can imagine. You've come from Nightwish, right?
I was coming from Nightwish, which was a very, very different side of the scope, the European side of things. And like there's like differences in style between like European and American styles, but
for sure.
But basically I was it was like very new to me, and I was just like, I'll try to get into it. I think at first that was kind of like my attitude, but then I can imagine. But then I really started to like it, because there was just so much going on with the production, and also there was sometimes riffs were simple but catchy, and then there was this great like vocal writing as well. But there were also all these like post-production elements like seated like around it, and that's what made it interesting for me. Like interesting to me, for example, like Asking Alexandria is the Black was probably I'd say the first metalcore record I really, really liked. And that's kind of because producer Joey Sturgis was on it. He produced the record. I just love all his work. I just love the way he thinks about post-production and making sound effects around everything, making the vocals sound solid and drums sound solid and everything.
He had a huge influence on modern metal production. There's no doubt about that. Joey Sturgis.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of how I discovered I think things like Nail the Mix and people like
yeah.
Joel Wanasek. I actually figured out about Joey Sturgis from our producer for Age of Athena, Sean Dowell. And so we figured I might as well get into that story before I get into what I'm about to talk about. But yeah, so we met Sean through Lucas from Solaris, because Sean was doing Lucas's albums, and he's like done them ever since he started the project. And we were just such a big fan of like the massive sound that he was getting, and we were just like, oh, we want that sound too. So we brought him on to mix our first record for Age of Athena, and that was kind of like my first experience, like learning like lots of things, like, okay, this is how production was done. That was like my first exposure to like, okay, this is how you record an album, and this is how you do it. And Sean's a big influence to me, because he's taught me like so many things, but from me like just observing what he does. And fantastic producer, by the way. You should check out his band Borealis. Fantastic.
Borealis. I will, man, because I did want to ask you about the production of that record, because I could tell that it was different, like it's a different kind of style, obviously, but it's really well produced. I mean, it sounds absolutely fantastic, that record.
Yeah, like I just love the way he he's able to fit stuff in, but he makes it like sound really big. I think it was really his drum and guitar sounds that were selling us to want to work with him, because he was just able to get them so like big, so up front. We were just like, that's not an easy thing to do. It's so impressive.
It's not easy. Like I was listening to that record multiple moments thinking, wow, there's a lot going on now, and it's still really well balanced, and somehow everything is clear. Like there were certain sections and certain songs where I was thinking like, yeah, I would definitely be really struggling at this point, but somehow it's all held together really well, man. So yeah, he did a killer job.
Yeah, and we were really happy with how it came out at the end, and we were just glad it came out like really solid, and people are just enjoying it. But yeah, like Sean was, I think the person to tell me about, I believe Joey Sturgis. Yeah, he was the person to tell me about Joey Sturgis, and I think Zach was talking about him too. But yeah, Joey Sturgis is definitely responsible for kind of that wave of metalcore bands in a way. He also has his own plugin company, which I use. I use multiple plugins of his, and
I don't have any of them, but they seem fantastic.
Yeah, they're designed in a way where they're like, let's say if you don't necessarily understand how compression works, they have a plugin that you can kind of just use easily, and it compresses things for you. Like, let's say a slider that kind of looks like the L1 plugin from Waves, for example. You break that down, and it just like
Man, you gotta love stuff like that, man. I mean, again, whatever people's opinions are, but like people like you and I, we're creators, right? And we get into it, and we just want to make a good sounding thing, and so I use the L1 plugin, and Waves also have the just that, is it like R compressor or something, which is literally just like a signal chain like that, just a slider basically, just like
I really like and I really like plugins like that, because you're more in creative mode than technical mode, and that's it's kind of what we strive for, right? Especially if you're kind of the one doing the writing as well as the mixing. Sometimes you just don't want to think about it at all.
Not really. Yeah.
So that's kind of how I was starting off Haven Dream as well. I was just using very simple plugins. I didn't even understand how Logic compressors worked. Like I had no idea.
No, the same. I started exactly the same, man. I totally got you.
Yeah, and I just found the Joey Sturgis plugins so appealing that I eventually I got like gain reduction, which is a great vocal plugin, very aggressive, gets you a great sound in like 2 seconds.
That's what you want, man.
And then there's like Joel Wanasek Buskley Mix or something like that, which has like Shadow Hills transformers on it. That's a compressor, by the way.
Nice.
And then it also has like built-in like magical width almost. I'm going to call it magical width. Why not?
Yeah.
And you literally just pull down faders like L1 and you just compress it and then adjust your level and you're done. You're not thinking about like attack and release times, right? You're just thinking about, okay, my mix is compressed and you're done. And that's kind of how like, Joey Sturgis Tones is like marketed is, it's like, okay, let us handle technical stuff. You be creative. And that's why I really like their vision. It's great.
Man, 100%. I'm all for that as well. And to be honest, I think that's the direction more and more as well. Like all the technology gets better. And I totally understand. Obviously there's going to be people that have been producing for many, many years or even produced analog that might be snobby about this approach, which I can understand, but ultimately technology is meant to make our lives easy, right? And so the more it can just supplement the creativity, the better. And I don't know about you as well, probably from what you're saying it'd be the case, but I kind of I will sort of mix as I go when I'm producing or even writing, not really necessarily like a proper mix, but these kind of plugins, as you say, that you can kind of throw on, and that's going to just kind of do the compression for you. I kind of do all of that stuff as I go, as I'm making a piece or even writing, even a demo I'll have. And therefore, by the time I complete a demo, it's kind of already roughly mixed. And then it's just kind of a case of like going back, maybe redoing some parts if needs be, and then sort of tweaking the mix to finish it.
Yeah. Mixing as you go is pretty common these days. It's definitely a time saver, that's for sure. You're kind of like, how would I describe it? You're creating your vision as you go. I've always been the type of person like yourself. I kind of want to hear more of a polished sound when I'm writing, what I'm writing. And also Zach's a huge believer in this too. Like he has
cool.
He has like this template that he uses where basically, okay, it's entirely mixed already.
Nice.
And it just sounds mostly aggressive. So he just uses that when he's writing stuff, and it just sounds great right out of the box. But yeah, when I'm like writing songs, like let's say for Haven Dream, for example, and I'm writing I actually already have a lot of song ideas for the next album, even though this first one's not released already. It's been just to quickly check.
You've got an album for Haven Dream. You've released 2 singles, but you've got an album pretty much ready that's going to be released. It's yet to be released, basically.
Like instrumentally, it's all ready. We're just recording the last of the vocals. There's cool. Not too many things left, but
that's cool. All right, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to put context.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, hoping to have it out by next year.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that'll probably be a good time to release it. But yeah, again, we'll see. I mean, people are on their busy schedules, of course. So
of course, man. Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But
a lot of logistics.
But
so yeah, when you're in the process of composing, then for Haven Dream, you were talking about like the production.
Yeah, like how I would approach it. At least when I started, I would just be like writing all the ideas in Logic. So I use Logic. I think it's the most versatile DAW when it comes to writing, at least in my opinion. I'm able to just have things set up very easily and just do the arrangement with all the drums, bass, even guitars, and I can just put everything there and balance everything the way I want it. So I don't even have to pull out something like, let's say, Sibelius, for example. I don't have to write the score in there. I can just do it in Logic. And
so,
I'll just have, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to ask. So when do you score with like, okay, you don't use Sibelius, but are you scoring like on musical notation or through the MIDI?
So I do use Sibelius. Like sometimes if I'm writing like a classical piece of music, I'll lean more towards that. Like,
so that's a musical notation software, just for anybody that doesn't know.
yeah, it's musical notation software. And if I'm just writing like let's say strictly a piano piece, or if I'm writing let's see, maybe something that's not going to be in metal vein, sometimes I'll just use Sibelius, but yeah, funnily enough, a lot of the time I just use Logic to write things. And I'll definitely use Logic to record piano ideas I have, for example, or if I'm just going to program orchestrations or write the orchestrations, lots of like 99% of the time I'll just do it in Logic using the MIDI function, because it's because it just saves you twice the time.
Totally,
so you're not having to export MIDI out of Sibelius into Logic, because that's probably going to cause a few headaches. I mean, at least in my experience when I've tried it. But
see, I wasn't sure if there was a way to have a quicker workflow where it's sort of integrated. I don't know how people manage these things, but for me, like, yeah, I've just played straight into the MIDI basically, because it just makes life easier.
Yeah, or like having a template set up. Templates. I was saying how Zach has one earlier. So I have a few for like multiple things. One for, let's say, if I'm mixing another band, I'll open that one and I'll just start from there. If it's just like simple, I just want to play some piano, I have one for that. I'll just open that up. Okay, I have piano with reverb. I don't have to do anything.
Nice, yeah.
And then I don't know, with Haven Dream, it's a little different. I kind of build things a little bit from scratch, but it is roughly based off of the mix template that I've kind of created. A little different though, but basically it kind of comes back to this concept of where like I'm just writing and mixing at the same time as I go. And funnily enough, for this like second album, I'm just using programmed guitars at the moment. I'm just like writing all the guitars in the MIDI MIDI space, and writing the parts that way. And I'll probably just have someone read the parts later and record that. But yeah, like the MIDI function in Logic is like very, very useful. And to be honest, since the beginning, that's kind of what I've used to write all my material, is just that. MIDI's been a huge part of my workflow, where I can just input all the notes. I can also see the arrangement quite well too. It's kind of like looking at a score, but
totally, man. I think it's kind of a new way, is like, by no means are you blind doing it. Like, you can actually have all the MIDI of all of the instruments up in front of you even, and see the whole orchestral arrangement or whatever like that. Yeah.
And you can also like see like individual parts. You can see a few parts, or you can see the entire thing if you want. It's just MIDI, but yeah, it's just a very helpful feature, and it makes things a lot faster. But yeah, coming back to like mixing and writing at the same time. That's kind of how I work these days. It's like having it's like, yes, I set things up, but it's almost like having two different personalities almost. Okay, I know this sounds funny, but I'll explain. One personality is like for writing. It's like, okay, I'm feeling like writing. I'm not gonna mix. I'm just gonna write. But then eventually, while I'm writing, I'll be like, okay, I don't want to write now. I just want to mix. So it's like it's almost like these two personalities work together almost, or like two two sides of me, I guess, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah, kind of back to the sort of like wearing hats and things like that. But I think it's a good part of the process, like, because you'll have like a creative surge where you just want to make a load of stuff, and then you kind of get to enjoy it and sit and just like make it sound better. So it's cool.
Yeah, and it's nice like when you're like building things up instead of sometimes splitting the phases, if that makes sense. I don't know, there's something satisfying about it. You're just able to hear your music in that like more polished format that just inspires you more to want to keep writing. Yeah,
exactly. It's a good positive feedback kind of positive feedback loop, you know, in that way. I actually feel like that's the most enjoyable time to listen to your own music. At least for me, like, it's sounding really good and you're kind of in the heat of the moment of like creating something and you really like it and you're feeling inspired and then you're making it sound better and better. Yeah, that's like the best bit.
It's always fun, like, you know, hearing your music that way and you know, getting, you know, inspired, saying like, oh, I did this, and you know, I feel proud of myself, right? And you know, with advancements in technology, it's, you know, never been easier. You know, you can do all these like things kind of at once. That's sort of what it's become these days, is you know, back to the concept of the multiple hats, right? You know, you sort of wear all those hats, and you know, in front of the computer, you're wearing all those hats, and it just, I don't know, it, like, especially if you're, you know, a writer, sometimes that's how you go down the production route, right? And you're like, most writers do become producers and sometimes mixers. And
more and more so.
Yeah,
I think that's good, and I think that technology will only make life easier for us in this kind of direction, to, like you're saying about Joe Sturgis plugins, or ones that I use as well, similar approach. You know, it's only going to get easier. I mean, don't want to get too dystopian here as well, but, you know, you see like the development of AI technology, and I mean, how that's going to transform production and stuff. I had no idea. That's kind of crazy. It's going to be like, sometimes, dude, I don't know if you heard it yet, but the other day I came across something which was like AI generated gent, and it was just like a loop, like an infinite loop of gent. It basically sounded like pretty good, like well produced generic gent music, and the rhythms are all just being like automatically generated as it went. Like, it was mental, man.
Oh my god. Yeah. That just sounds crazy. It's kind of crazy where you know, technology is headed these days. I mean, I'm not super into AI stuff myself, but it is cool in a way. Like let's say, for example, there's sometimes like there's a few like mastering services out there where you can basically master you know, your song on a website or something, and it like reads your song, does it for you. I'm not really into that, but I will say it is like very cool for people who don't necessarily understand how to.
It's better than nothing.
It's like it's better than nothing, right? Like, and you know, it's just cool to have another possibility, right? Like I was saying before, there's no right or wrong, right?
Exactly, man. Exactly. I think that territory of how far technology will go is a very weird topic, but I do think that ultimately it will be good in this way, that like basically it's all just like the tools get better and better, but you know, we'll always still need people to do the creation, right? So I just think that, the way that things are going, we'll probably get to a point where like you'll be able to produce and the song will basically just like mix itself somehow. But like, obviously you'd still have to like communicate how you want it to sound, and that would somehow work. But as I say, we're getting into weird territory here. So
Yeah, yeah, it's always interesting to see where the future is going. But yeah, like I guess it's really just seeing it as another possibility. I guess in this case, but yeah, yeah, that's kind of how I see it.
I'm with you. I think that we have a similar approach, and I'm kind of glad to hear you say it all as well, because I didn't really know if if what I was doing was right necessarily. It's just how I've gotten the flow of doing it. And as you say, it makes sense that that's kind of what a lot of people are doing, sort of mixing and producing kind of all in one, and writing. It just becomes an all encompassing creative process. And yeah, that's cool. I was gonna say something about that actually. That was it. I don't know about you as well, but one thing that I actually learned in regards to that is when I first started mixing, I was overthinking everything. Like I thought, all right, I have to learn how to mix. So I watched like millions of YouTube videos or whatever of how to mix and whatever. And so I kind of had it in my head that like, okay, well, I need to use compressors and EQs and etc. So I spent so much time mixing projects and doing things that like I thought that I was supposed to do, and often just like making an absolute mess or making totally mad mixes or things that sounded ridiculous. I think that what I came down to, and what would probably be my actual number one advice, I think, to anybody doing that is like, it's kind of simple, but like just follow your ears, right? It's kind of about what sounds good. Like you should just kind of trust that. and I think that kind of ties into this creative process. Like if you're writing and you're creating a piece, then you're just thinking like, how can I make this sound better? Well, maybe if I do a bit of this and uplift it there, and then you just build the whole thing up as you go, basically. And then yeah, at the end you're kind of like, okay, now I'm just going to focus on sort of tweaking it. But like, yeah, you don't need to overthink it too much.
Yeah, I can definitely say that I've also been down that same rabbit hole you have, like with like watching a million tutorials, trying to figure out, what does this mean? What does that mean? And yeah, there are even still sometimes to this day where I'm still like overthinking it.
Oh yeah, like me too, man.
I'll question whether, let's say this mix I'm doing for this one band, like I'll still even question if that sounds still is like, up to that quality that I'm looking for. I'll still question it. I think a lot of it has to do with referencing other mixes. That's definitely where a lot of the overthinking comes from, is that you hear somebody else's work and yours doesn't stack up to it as much, and you're just like, oh, it's not there yet. It's still not there yet. Like I still do a lot of referencing these days, because it just helps me to sort of hear like, okay, where's like my low end at? Mostly for low end. That's probably the hardest part of your mix to get correct. I do a lot of like car tests to make sure it sounds good in the car, because I don't, as you can see in this room, this is where I mix. I don't have any treatment around me, so I basically can't hear any low end properly. So I either have to use these or just go in the car. But I don't know. I'd say my ears have just adjusted enough where I'm able to hear things relatively well. I just use my ears. Like, it comes back to your argument where like, just use your ears, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes our brains can get too involved, but like, ultimately, does it sound good? And as you say, referencing is definitely good for that, because you listen to other people's music, and the thing is like, it's definitely more about getting in the ballpark, right? I think the thing with referencing is, as you say, like where, like how much low end do I have in my track, in the overall balance compared to this professional track, as opposed to like, here's my production. Now I listen to some amazing high budget, major label production, and now I just want to cry. We've all been there for sure, man. But yeah, it's definitely more just about that ballpark, getting the kind of sonic balance there.
Yeah, and sometimes at the end of the day, you have to like stop comparing your mix to other mixes and say like this definitely is like unique in itself, right? Or
which is a good thing as well. Because that is the thing. And people actually comment about that a lot, whether it's producers or even completely outside of production, especially in metal, like a lot of stuff is sounding the same, right? Because it's kind of become defined a modern metal sound with massive drums and these kind of guitar sounds. So everyone's sort of doing it. And therefore, at that point, it does actually become cool to just have a more unique production that's yours,
Yeah. Like I definitely liked the way you mixed your Arcane Muse song. That was
thanks, man.
Yeah, that was like really cool how things were balanced, and I could like hear you could hear like a lot of the things that were going on. You could hear your guitar parts, you could hear orchestral parts, you could hear the vocals well. Yeah. I like when mixes are kind of like a little more unique in a way. They still like kind of have like a standard or like adhering to a standard a bit, but like I like when stuff is new and fresh. I think that's why I like a lot of ambient music. Ambient music is great.
Cool.
There's always like some cool new things to hear in those ones.
Nice.
Like Cryo Chamber is a great channel. They have like ambient music. It's completely ambient music.
Nice. Yeah. That's cool. I like ambient music too. That's an interesting topic because it's kind of a whole other thing. But so on that, like you go to a YouTube channel, and I know there's quite a lot of big YouTube channels and they kind of they give you a vibe, right? And then how do you navigate looking for ambient music?
A very good question. Probably a hard question to answer. I think.
Sorry. Yeah, this is just like
that's okay.
Out of left of field kind of subject.
I think I just randomly come across it. I'd say that channel Cryo Chamber is definitely a one that I keep coming back to because I just like what I'm hearing from all the artists that put their stuff up on there. Yeah, I mean, I just find things by sometimes it's from random YouTube recommendations or like if people are doing ads with their music or something. Sometimes it'll pop up in my feed if it's like targeted towards people like myself. I'll find it that way.
Nice. But so do you listen to a lot of ambient music, would you say then?
Every now and then I will. I wouldn't say a ton these days, but I just have a very, I want to say, very good relationship with ambient music. I don't write a lot of it, but a lot of it is a very huge influence on my music because I just like I just kind of like the feelings that it evokes in me. It kind of feels like real life sounds when you're walking, like
nature,
going on a walk, going on a walk through nature. I just love incorporating the sounds into my music, like creating a soundscape, creating a movie, just creating a scene. Like I'm not like I really like when it's more than just about the song. Like there's more elements involved. Like you're creating a scenery. So it was kind of actually I have a perfect example for that. So the track Jade in Her Quiet Place.
Right, from Blood of Indigo.
From Blood of Indigo, yeah. So that's where a lot of that influence was driven into. Because not only do you just hear piano, you also hear water and nature sounds around it. Right.
Nice.
And so I played around with I just got out some sounds that I like, and I was panning them like back and forth around, like in this case, me, the player. So it kind of sounded like I was playing in some type of magical forest almost. Or like I'm playing in the middle of like a river on a rock or something. I don't know. But essentially that was kind of my goal with that track. So it was it's like first it was born out of an improvisation I was just playing around with when I was in still in school at the time. And then I said, okay, how am I going to record this? I kind of wanted some of that authentic feel. So I decided to use our piano at home, which is basically an 100-year-old Heinzmann piano.
Wow.
I think it's 100 years old. At last my parents told me.
Wow. So you mic'd it up.
Yeah. And the funniest part is that I actually use this mic right here. I only use this one mic. Usually you're supposed to, I mean, if you want your piano in stereo, you need two mics, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, one mic just seemed to work. So I wanted more of the top keys.
Stick some of that magic widening on there.
Yeah, that's essentially what happened. So I put the mic on the right side of the piano. So I captured all the top strings. I wanted more of that besides the lower ones. And then I just did a few takes of it, combed them together, right? And then like obviously when the piece was already written, ready to go, right? And then from there, like once I had a solid recording of what I wanted, I mean, I was still editing it while I did the sound effects and everything, but then I started to pull out the sound effects because I was just like, okay, instead of this just being a normal piano track that someone would hear on a record, how can I make this more unique, more special? Because I don't know, for me, like if it's just a piano track, I mean, people have heard that so many times, right? So like, how can we sort of make it stand out a little more? And I said, okay, sound effects will probably make it stand out more. So I pulled out some water sounds, some nature sounds. I don't know what else there was. Thunder, maybe. I can't remember. But I took those. I sort of printed them a little bit, and then I used like pan automation while listening to the track. By the way, another topic I love getting into is automation. I'm very passionate about it.
Nice. Cool.
So I kind of made the sounds like crescendo and decrescendo with the piano. So whenever the piano was climaxing, the sounds would go up, and then if it was kind of like softening, the sounds would go down. And I would literally just play the track, and like using my mouse while I was listening, I would just automate it up and then down and up and down, and that just gave it a lot more life to me instead of the sounds just staying at like a consistent level.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then also
just to ask about your automation process. Then you're doing it with your mouse. Like how's that working exactly? So you're just I've actually never used Logic before as well, but like for me, I'm literally like, I've got the line underneath, and I'm often end up in post like just manually clicking like all of the kind of rides that I want. But you're you're actually like riding it with the scroll on the mouse or something.
Yeah, like I'm basically riding the fader with the mouse,
Cool.
and I'm doing it while the track is playing.
Yeah,
I find like this is a very musical,
traditional way, right?
Yeah, that was kind of like the traditional way of
on the console you'd be riding it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as heard as much of these days, and it's kind of why I wanted to bring it back, because you don't really hear people talk about it. You kind of hear people talking about it in vocal production because you're trying to hear like all the words. I do a lot of that in vocals, but yeah, especially with sound effects, it's very helpful because you're giving the sounds like life again. You're not just having them sit at one level the whole time, and I also pan things with the mouse in real time, like and then I write that. So like with touch mode on, I just write the pan automation by just moving the mouse while the track is playing. And if that sounds musical to me, then I keep it. And then if I want to, revise some things about that automation, I just go back and tweak it. Nice. But yeah, that's kind of my process. I mean, I do I mean, I do the same things with orchestral programming. I mean, do you do a lot of it yourself?
I do, but that's why I'm interested in you talking about like in live mode, like because I've been doing really everything just manually clicking in post, but I am interested in that. Like I just haven't had really a suitable tool, or I actually probably do somewhere, but I haven't got into that thing of manually writing it, but I would like to. And it's interesting that you did it with the mouse. Like I didn't actually even think about just doing that with the mouse.
Yeah, I think it's like a feature that's, I don't know if it's exclusive to Logic. Most of the times I won't even use the fader window to do this. I'll just use the trim feature on the left side, which is like it's like a thing where you can click it and pull up or down like all your moves, like just by like a dB. Let's say if there's like a ton of automation there, you can just pull it all the way down or up. So I do that. I do that a lot. But like you can also use it to write automation moves, which is surprising. It's something I just stumbled upon. I happened to stumble upon, and I just started using it. I'm just like, this is just better than opening another window and doing it.
Cool.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's like a weird thing that I just got used to, and it just worked for me. But yeah, you probably have to see it in action on YouTube to know what I'm talking about. But
I know what you're talking about to some degree. Yeah. As I say, it's kind of like based off of that traditional method on the console, right? Where you're just pulling up the fader to turn the vocal up or whatever. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and I've always liked mixes like that where you're not just kind of setting and forgetting a level. You have things kind of changing in level over time, and that to me is what makes a mix sort of lively.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I think that it has to be done to some degree. Like if it's not, then it's missing a trick for sure. Like I mean, in my DAW, I just basically create track envelopes. I think kind of like what you're doing to some degree, and then I can have like the volume automation under that track.
Right.
And then, but as I say, like I'm not like riding it in live mode or whatever. I will literally go to say the guitar and I'll click dots, where it's going to lift up into the chorus, a dB or whatever. And then, obviously get more detailed in nuance with certain tracks and things like that.
Yeah. I actually did it the way that you were doing it first.
Right.
Where it was just clicking, right?
Yeah.
And you would put all these points here and there, and that's how you would kind of get your dynamics. I guess maybe the whole writing thing is for faster workflow, if that makes sense.
That's what I think is, but it's faster and as you kind of say as well, perhaps more musical, because you're kind of more feeling the music as you do it.
Yeah, it's like it's gonna sound weird, but you're feeling the music with your mouse. It's funny saying. I know, just came up with it, but
cool.
but yeah, you're but it's almost like you're holding your mouse. You're just like you're moving it, but you're not really looking at the screen. Almost you're like you're like feeling. You're feeling what you're healing. Oh my goodness, my words today. You're feeling what you're hearing in this case. It's not about all the points on in the DAW. In this case, it's you're actually feeling it. Like that writing just gave me a feeling, right? But yeah, that's why I like using it. And even just the manual, like select and bring up and down, I like doing that a lot too. Like I can safely say that the Blood of Indigo album would not sound the same if we didn't do that. Because there's just so many parts that you want to hear louder in certain sections, and parts you want to hear softer in certain sections.
Well, this is the balancing act, isn't it, of what we spoke about, where you want to push the orchestra a lot. It's great, but the one thing that you're going to potentially sacrifice is the kind of heaviness of having big drums and guitars. And Blood of Indigo is pretty heavy, so you kind of you've got to have that balance and that momentum where it's pushing. Yeah, I definitely heard that, like some parts where the orchestra just absolutely like flies out and then kind of pulls back in, which is really nice.
Yeah, kind of like in our track Angelus is a good example where
I was literally hearing it like in my head. Angelus,
yeah, like first you have like a riff driven verse right before the chorus, right? And there's very little orchestra there. It's very sparse. I actually have a video on our channel explaining this. But basically, orchestra takes backseat for that part where it's all about the riff and the vocals. And then suddenly you just get a swell of orchestral grandeur right into the chorus, and like the guitars immediately take the backseat because they're just playing sustained chords, right? And I guess it's always fun playing around with these balances, and I find like these like small balance changes have a lot more like life, at least in my case.
Totally, man. I think also another one that's a good trick is that if you like really push something, even quite briefly, like into a new section or whatever, it's even if you like push it up and then pull it back, because it's drawn your attention to it, it kind of has that effect of it being louder. For instance, like there's a break where the bass does something and then you push the bass really loud and hear the brr, 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 and then everything else comes in. It kind of feels like that big bass is still there, even if it's dropped out, just because of where it's been pushed and your attention's been drawn to it in that way, which is a cool trick, I think.
Yeah. Just adds a lot to mixes in my opinion. But it's always fun to play around with. I remember once we got the general balances kind of, Mario had his guitar tones sorted out, his drums tones, bass tones sorted out. Once we had obviously EQ and compression, limiting and all that stuff, that's very important to do first, of course, before you try doing that. But yeah, after
the writing is kind of the end.
You do the writing and arrangement comes always first before the mix, in my opinion, always. And then obviously I sent up like an orchestral stem. Yeah, it's funny for this record, I just wanted to keep things simple, so I only gave him one orchestral stem of the entire orchestra. There was there was no separated tracks.
Man, I think sometimes it's just too much. They can get so big, those orchestral projects, man.
Yeah,
like my computer will be like dying towards the end of a mix if I don't sum it.
Yeah, I think large part of it was that I just wanted to keep things simple when we were dealing with it, because all the balances were printed in there. Like you didn't really have to change them or anything. You just had to either turn the orchestra up or down, and that was pretty much all we needed, at least I thought.
Nice.
And then I also like produced the vocals along with the orchestral session. I just kept them in the same session and everything. And like sometimes when the vocals got to the final mix part, like they already had all the compression on them, all the effects on them, and we just didn't have to think about it. It was like, does it need to be louder or softer? And that was it. It made the mixing process fun. I like when the mixing process is fun. Yeah.
Nice. And so, did you mix the Blood of Indigo album, or that's like you and Mario, or?
It was both me and Mario. Yeah, both of us. Yeah. So
cool.
Mario had certain tones that he wanted for his guitars and drums and everything. And then I had my own tones that I wanted for.
Well, you basically produced the orchestra into a track.
Yeah, I produced
a lot of production.
Yeah, I produced. My main job was kind of like editing the guitars and bass to make sure it was all in time.
The quantizing and stuff like or time alignment. Yeah.
Just making sure everything was tight, so that way it sounded professional. And then I was also in charge of making sure the orchestra was solid, and then that was good to go. And then also the vocals too. So I edited the vocals and added all the compression and effects to them before it made its way into the vinyl mix.
Right.
But yeah, I was kind of like the whole like concept again, like mixing as you go, right?
Yeah, you kind of all in one.
And then when you get to the final mix part, you just have everything there already. And I was mixing that to a demo track, which was surprising because I thought like, okay, is this going to work in the final mix? And surprisingly it did. So it just fitted well, and it was like, okay, great. We don't have to worry about it.
Cool.
Yeah. Fun process.
Cool, man. Yeah. That's really nice. So I was interested just because we went on a little bit of a diversion, but before we start talking about the automation stuff, we were talking about like ambient music and the soundscapes and things. And was there more that you wanted to discuss there? Because I kind of cut you off into this.
Yeah, sure. I'd say it's mostly apparent. There's definitely some parts on like Blood of Indigo that the ambient sounds come out a bit. Like
I mean, you said about Memesis, like the intro track, how like this is dark fantasy metal. So it has that cinematic soundtrack quality to the music, right? So therefore this is important.
Yeah. So there were a few moments in Memesis where like there was a few sound effects because I wanted to kind of create the atmosphere. So for example, when I was doing the intro, I was like, okay, how can I start this off? I think I added like some rain sounds, I believe, or thunder sounds. I don't remember. But and then I took Lindsay's melody and kind of put it at the beginning there in like the form of like bells or something like that. Bells, yeah, bells. And that kind of just sets it up for kind of like, okay, this is like the introduction of going into the shade world almost, or like understanding like kind of where it's going to go, like setting things up. But yeah, even though it's mostly an orchestral piece, there are parts where the sound effects really take prominence. So there's a part in the middle, like where it's using the Sphinx theme, but it's actually in sad form. In this case, it's with the solo violin.
Nice.
And I think I had some sound effects built around that a little bit, but after the music stops, you can kind of hear like some monster sounds in the distance. I think I used a Natural Forces pack from Heaviosity, I think, for that. They had like they had some groovy sounds in there, so it was kind of cool. So I just put that in. The whole winding up of the toy at the next section, that was fun to do. I think it was I think Alex came up with the idea for that, so I was trying to find something that like worked and stuff. So that was fun. But the part where the sound effects really stand out is at the end when all the orchestral stuff stops. It's almost like there's a person walking into this world about to explore this world, and I kind of wanted to emulate that. So funnily enough, on this keyboard there's some sounds that you can use with like some footsteps, so I kind of took some of those, and then I also layered some sounds together to make like a sword like sheathing. Alex had an idea for that.
Nice.
He was like, can you make like someone sheathing his sword almost like he's about to go on an adventure? I'm just like, okay. So I just found some sounds and I layered them together to make it sound like
So this is really like sound design at this point.
Cool. It was almost like trying to design a sound for video games or for movies. And that's like a whole like other profession in itself. Like I had to do some of it when I was at Fanshawe College. I had to, actually sync up sounds with actual film. And I've also done a film as well.
Cool.
I had to do this music for this fashion film, which it was for a fashion film. There's like a fashion department at Fanshawe, and the head of the coordinator of Fanshawe, MIA, Music Industry Arts, Dan Broadbeck, asked me to write music for what they were working on. I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Nice.
It was a fun film to work on. I learned a lot from doing that. Like,
I bet.
I think I I think I ended up with like 250 tracks in the end or something crazy. But
Wow.
it was a new learning experience for me. And making sure you can finish all that with a deadline in mind. It's like, oh boy,
It's big work. And I mean, you have to like time everything to the footage, right? So you've got to watch the scene, and then you've got to work out your tempos and things that is going to have things in the right place, right? I mean, that's a whole other set of challenges to composing like that.
Yeah, and like sync is just, it's so noticeable when it comes to film. Like I notice it very often, but getting that sync right is so challenging. Like I remember I had to make kind of like computer typing noises at the beginning of this film with sounds of the sounds I had, and I'm just like, how am I going to make this exactly? So
you
like,
had to do all the sound design as well, all the sound effects for that film.
I had to do sound effects because like the film is called Rosetta.exe. It's kind of about like AI technology almost. Like they were kind of like trying to combine like fashion and AI almost. I think that's what the concept was. But like there was like a part at the beginning where they were typing like the title in. I was just like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to have like typing keys here. I'm not sure if it was the director's idea, but at least I thought it would be cool. So I was like trying to sync up all those sounds, and I just remember how challenging it was. It was and I had to take sounds like from libraries that I thought wouldn't work at all, but I was able to print those sounds and like kind of like shorten them up, lengthen them, and to make it sound like it's like a typewriter or something. It was a unique challenge. And then there were parts where I had to make like waterfall sounds, make the waterfall sounds like it's on the left because the waterfall's on the left, right? Or
wow, yeah. And you're mixing 5.1, were you, or is it still stereo?
I actually wasn't mixing 5.1 for this. I was just mixing stereo. Thankfully, I was because I'm
that's another thing.
I'm not very good at 5.1. I had to learn about it, but I'm not a 5.1 mixer by any means. You know, you have like 5 speakers and then the 0.1 is a subwoofer basically.
Because you have cinematic surround sound basically.
But yeah, like just having that task of like doing music and also doing sound effects, like that was just, there was a lot to deal with there. And then when the film length changed, I had to print the entire thing, and then I had to like shorten sections up, and I had to have one track for just the print, and then I also had to add like additional sound effects on the print. It was, oh boy. But well, I'm not like sighing like, oh, this is so hard, like
what I'm saying, big challenge.
What I'm saying is that was a big challenge, and it was exciting, right? And like it was so fun to do. I'm grateful for the experience, and it actually got screened at quite a few film festivals around the globe, which I was quite surprised by.
Cool.
So it was really fun. But back to kind of Blood of Indigo in a way, like that sort of like those sort of ideas made its way into Blood of Indigo almost. And like, even though it's not like synced up with film, you're still trying to create like the sound of a film just through sound. But it was just really fun. It's just also always really fun creating like an environment, because sounds can also be music. It's not always it's not always just like tonal sounds, right? But really fun.
Really cool, man. Really cool. I love that. Again, I can relate to your creative vision in that way. I love that approach. Obviously, it's definitely what you've got going with Blood of Indigo, where it has that, it's so conceptual, and you have obviously all the amazing artwork that goes with it, and so it just makes sense to create this kind of thematic, cinematic sound to it. Like, that's the stuff that I love and that I like to do as well. And like the Arcane Muse as well also had that bird song and kind of magical forest, especially at the beginning. So yeah, that's exactly the kind of stuff I love, man, which is really cool. I'm curious, is film and maybe video games and things like that, is that something that you would like to do more of, or you prefer the metal, obviously?
I mean, I definitely prefer the metal for sure. I did try to get sound designer jobs once. There was a period where I was trying to do that. But I think they were looking for more of a higher standard, so I didn't really get those jobs. But I'd say maybe if someone asked me to do a film, I'd be up for that. Like if it was just maybe more writing music for the film, and not so much like doing fully sound effects. Like I'm open to doing some, but
sure.
Yeah, I'd say I'm more like in the vein of kind of writing music for the film and kind of capturing that like moment there. But
yeah, if you could do like Blood of Indigo, dark fantasy film score or something, then that would be epic.
Yeah. I definitely probably go to that route. I'd probably go that route. Yeah.
Cool, man. Cool. Oh, well, the time has completely flown by, man. I actually can't believe how long we've been talking. I feel like there's still so much that I want to talk to you about, but I guess we'll have to like sort of start to wrap it up. So I mean, what's next for you, man? And what things do you want to get in there? Is there anything in particular you want to say, or yeah, go for it, man.
Anything I want to say? Well, I guess there's a lot of things to say. Maybe if I can think of what to say, what are the things I have to do?
What's next for you, man? What's coming up? What are you up to at the moment, and what's on the horizon?
Well, right now I'm working on the Haven Dream album. That's for sure. That's been more of my focus these days. I've also been working with other groups too, like kind of like I was mentioning before. I mean, one of them's like an orchestral project. The other one's a mixing project, and also kind of like a vocal production project too. What else is there? I think it's mostly those things right now. I'm also playing a show next week, so that's fun.
Cool.
But yeah, I'd say my main project is kind of working on Haven Dream right now and getting the first album out. It's gonna be an album about mental health, which is why I was calling it. I decided to call it Internal.
The album.
Yeah, it's gonna be called Internal. Just a simple title for mental health. I guess if you want to call it that way.
Cool. And what kind of approach in a way would you have to encapsulating mental health? Like
what kind of approach?
Is it like you have different songs that are about different aspects of mental health, or
like mental health was always a topic that was very close to me, because I always had a lot of dark periods in my life. I think we all have, right?
Yeah, sure, I can relate.
But yeah, I think a lot of that album, especially instrumentally for sure, and then lyrically too. And Alina had some stuff she wanted to express as well through the lyrics. But like a lot of that was my like sort of dark energy being funneled into it, and it's almost like through that music I was able to almost heal myself in a way, because I was kind of, instead of like holding everything inside, I was like just releasing it into something
cathartic release.
Cathartic, like making me feel as though I was alive again almost. I don't know. I don't think I know what my life would be without music, that's for sure. But yeah, like this whole album was just kind of letting my expressing my mental health in a lot of ways, definitely instrumentally, and it's supposed to sound like very over the top, like emotional, and that's kind of how I like intended it to be. And yeah, I just and I also just wanted something different from other symphonic metal records, something where it's kind of my brain froze. Sorry.
That's okay, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm with you. I really feel that, and I think that's the thing is if you do really have that much authentic emotion in your music, then it is gonna set it apart. You know.
Yeah, and I think I wanted the emotion to really come through in this music. I was just very particular in how I wanted it to sound, and yeah, there's one song on this record that's like all of them are mostly over the top. There are some softer ones, but there's one song I can do a little sneak peek on this. Why not? But there is one song we did do a video for that's like just over the top, mostly everywhere, and it's kind of about like overthoughts and like overthoughts like overtaking your every action, making you think like dark stuff, for example, or like the weight of my sea is, for example, about like empathy, and empathy is not only like light sided, it can also be dark sided, for example. It's it's almost like there's like water filling up in your brain almost. That was kind of like the analogy behind that. And it was just like clouding your emotions, and you can find yourself through just like feeling all those, like things about other people or something like that. Yeah, it was an interesting concept. And then my schizophrenia was I think it was originally Alina's idea to talk about this one, because I think it was about something else before, but then she had the idea of why don't we talk about schizophrenia, like hearing voices in your head, because it's not like a mental health subject that's talked about very often. I'm just like, it's a great idea, we should talk about it.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting topic. I mean, I've unfortunately, I suppose, had some good friends that struggled with schizophrenia and things like that. I think it's a very interesting topic. But I mean, all of mental health, I suppose, it's important things for people to relate to. And as you say, like, because you're a composer and especially an instrumentalist, like, to be able to kind of embed that much emotion in the actual music, I think that a lot of people on a surface level, non-musicians and stuff especially, can take words and lyrics, but when you embed that much emotion into the music, it is something that you can feel on a deeper level, and that's just kind of magic in a way. So I feel you, man.
But yeah, there's gonna be lots of topics on this record, like post-traumatic stress disorder is another one. Anxiety, of course, depression as well. Yeah. But yeah, I kind of wanted to, it's almost like I want people to feel like those types of feel those subjects like heavily, like really want to feel them. I think that was kind of my goal with this. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and especially with that context, certainly allows for that. I could tell that music, the 2 tracks at least that you've got for that project, were heavy in that way, emotionally heavy, rather than just metal heavy, And so yeah, that's really interesting to know about, man, and it does add a sense of depth to the music to hear you talk about that. So that's really cool, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for people to hear it once it's out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, I'm super excited for that. So, and like you mentioned that Age of Athena is kind of like you kind of guys all took a break from it through lockdown and stuff like that, and then you came back to do the album. Is that how active is Age of Athena right now?
I'd say we're mostly taking a break right now, but we are We are, however, working on songs here and there for another album.
Cool.
Yeah, we're out there right now. I'm not sure if I can say too much else, but
sure, yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, that's yeah, I can definitely say that we're still, we did get together for a second album, and we've talked about maybe what songs to use, and we're still writing some more ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll probably have a lot of ideas to choose from for the next album. But yeah, that's
nice.
That's kind of where we're at right now. Yeah,
cool. And I've seen, murmurings of Blood of Indigo material as well, new stuff coming, and
yeah.
Alex spoke about the fact that you guys would love to kind of in the next step do music videos and also start playing live at some point as well. So
yeah, and we've been asked to play live by our local Toronto promoter many times already. So yeah, cool. Yeah, she really wants us to come on stage with some other people. So
cool.
Yeah, we might be working on that soon. We actually don't know when we're going to start playing live yet. We haven't decided yet, but yeah, definitely is eventually going to happen.
Nice.
Yeah, and we're working on album 2 material, so that's fun. We have lots of new ideas already. So that's something we're going to be focusing on, and yeah, we'll potentially have a new video around sometime soon. That's for sure.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. And and you have your studio, right? And you've mentioned that you do some work, some mixing, things like that. Is that something that you're looking to push? Like, can people reach out to you for like services, mixing, production, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I call it Studio Grandiose.
Nice.
I just need to give myself a name. Basically, it's funny. I think Alex said that name one time, just randomly when we were in conversation, and I'm just like, yes, that's the name. So I'm just like, I'm going to call the studio business that, because why not?
For sure, man. It's a grandiose sound that you have. So
yeah, and it just kind of described my sound perfectly. So I'm like, yeah, that has to be that. So yeah, like what I do for that is, I do keyboards, I do orchestrations, mostly focus on that stuff, but I also do some production and mixing. I also do mastering, and some writing for people too. I'm a songwriter. So yeah, you could say I do a lot of things, but I do offer all of those things under Studio Grandiose for whoever wants to work with me.
Cool.
I'm absolutely down.
Cool. That's wicked, man. That's wicked. Well, I think that it's probably as good a place as any to wrap it up. I feel like, there's still plenty we could talk about, but, we'll have to do it again another time, perhaps.
Yeah, more classical music conversations, I guess.
That's it. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it's a whole other kind of worms, isn't it? Yeah. I think that I think there's just a funny story to share that before we go, which is that we started a conversation on Instagram. Obviously we had like a few kind of exchanges here or there. I remember like Blood of Indigo, you guys had the Discord server, and I remember talking about Yu-Gi-Oh a bit.
Oh yeah.
And but we had a conversation that started over Instagram. It started about squirrels. It was so random. We just started talking about squirrels because you posted something about squirrels, and in Ontario you guys have all these black squirrels which are super cool, and I just responded to that, and we were chatting about squirrels, and then from there it just kind of snowballed into a massive conversation about a lot, actually, as you said, a lot about classical music and music in general. And eventually it got to a point where I had to say, like, man, do you want to come on the podcast? Because it's just going to be easier to talk, man. But that was really cool.
I can safely say the squirrels are getting much fatter for winter.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's their time. But I mean, obviously we spoke a lot about classical music, and I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole here, but you're really into classical music as well, and maybe you could just briefly mention some of the kind of stuff that you mentioned to me about your favorite composers, favorite music there, and perhaps that'd be a nice place to wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, probably some of my favorites are I love Liszt. I love his technical improvisational type of style.
Mm-hmm.
Chopin's great too. I actually picked this up the other day because I've always wanted a copy of these. We all know what they are. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All the ballads.
The Chopin ballads. Yeah, beautiful piano works. Yeah.
Yeah, I love those works. There's some other ones. I really like Debussy. Debussy's great too.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the variety of tonal colors, the non-functional harmony. It just like, again, instills feeling within me. I just love those coloristic changes.
Yeah,
very fun. But yeah, those are a few of my favorites. I probably forgot some, but those are
yeah. It was. I remember that it's largely about romantic composers, right? Which I'm definitely largely into romantic classical music as well. Probably a lot of metalheads that are into classical music are. But again, it kind of goes back to what you said about that making really sort of emotionally moving music, right? So the fact that you have such an influence in romantic music, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and a lot of it has made its way into like my improvisation and like the romantic and impressionist music. It's I just love like combining those two worlds together, and improvisation is just a huge part of. I'd say I don't do it as daily these days because of other things, of course, but it was something I would do a lot like back in university days, and it's still a huge part of my life. Yeah, improvising.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you managed to incorporate techniques of composers and such by, I guess, playing their music and absorbing their styles and then improvising on that.
Yeah, like it all started off with I think I remember when I heard one of my classmates playing Sposalizio by Liszt, part of the Agnès de Pèlerinage series, and I was curious to learn it, and then I guess around there, like in high school, that's kind of where my journey to discovering improvisation began, I believe. I don't quite remember where it began, to be honest. I think it was when I started getting into bands like Dragon Force, Anarchy, Stradivarius, those type of bands, where they had like all the keyboard solos everywhere.
Nice. Yeah.
I think that's when I started to get into improvisation. I was just so fascinated with the fact of just being able to sit down and just play anything I wanted. And then eventually when I started liking classical music, whatever like techniques there were, I just wanted to try improvising on those, like even if it was just a small phrase of a technique, I would improvise that. I could just do it in my own way. But yeah, it's always fun to do. I love doing it. Every time I sit at the keyboard, it's like routine for me nowadays.
Nice.
And funnily enough, I'm writing a book on this very subject. I haven't.
Wow.
Yeah. I decided to start writing it last month, I believe. Well, now it's November, so it was in September. I decided to start writing it. It was in the back of my mind for I don't know, since maybe 2020ish or 2019. I don't remember, but
nice.
But yeah, it's a bit of a hobby right now. I would say, just kind of writing those thoughts out about like how I approach it and stuff. But
so about approaching improvisation.
Yeah, kind of like my thought process behind it, and like
nice.
Ways you can learn to improvise yourself almost. But yeah, every now and then I'll come back to writing some ideas. I'm obviously focused on other projects at the moment, but yeah, it's a fun subject to write about. There's a lots to talk about with it, and it's just a very creative, fun adventure. So yeah,
man, that's fascinating. Like, yeah, that's a whole conversation in of itself. I'd be very interested. I'll certainly be up for reading your book once you have that in a readable format. I mean, I would definitely say improvisation is, I wouldn't say it's one of my strong suits. So that's really cool that it's something that you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and most videos I share with people on Instagram are just me making stuff up for the most part. It just comes so naturally to me these days because I've kind of made a sound for myself and just making things up. But yeah, I don't know. That's a bit about that. So
yeah, amazing, man, amazing. So yeah, well, we'll have to do it again sometime so we can approach some of these other topics, especially get into music itself more. Like I feel like we could speak a lot about, man. But it's been absolutely great just to get more of your background and hear about your projects and things too. And I hope that people can listen to this and get a good introduction to all of those things, man. So thank you so much for your time, and it's been a real pleasure, man.
Yeah, you're very welcome, man. And thanks so much for having me. I mean, to be honest with you, this is like my first like one-on-one interview. So it's
cool.
been, I guess it's more of like a podcast though, right? But
sure. But
podcast or interview, I guess that's the same thing, right?
Yeah, it seems interchangeable to some degree.
Yeah. But this is like kind of like my first interview where like someone wanted to talk with me more like one-on-one type of style. So just
cool.
Thanks so much for having me on.
It's been a total pleasure, man. I just the style really is that I just like to have conversations with like-minded people, like yourself, and we just record it so other people can check it out too, and so I knew after just chatting like a bit that we'd have plenty to speak about. So I'm really glad we've done this, and I just look forward to doing it again sometime, man.
Yeah, same here.
Cool, man. All right, well, cheers.
Cheers, man.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Creating a Universe. A special thank you to Nathan for joining me. I really enjoyed this conversation. Be sure to check out Nathan's links at linktr.ee/Nathan_Gross. Links will be in the show notes. That's all for this one. Until next time, take care.